So if you're here now, I know you're aware Styx is a band with a long and storied history, starting all the way back with their very progressive early days and then moving into their string of stadium rock hits in the late 70s and early 80s, and then long into the modern day here, where we can typically hear them during every Steelers home game. Not something I'm sure they counted on happening when they started all of this out. But hey, we take what we can get along the way. So why am I talking about them? Well, if you're here, you know why I'm talking about them. They've got a brand new album out, and I'm going to be taking a look at it. So do they sound like the Styx of old? Do they sound like the Styx of their hit-laden glory days? Do they sound like something else altogether? What's going on with them? Well, my thoughts on all of that and more coming right up. Hey, Prog Noggins, Dave here, and this is Bleeding Edge. Welcome to your weekly album review. A little bit delayed, but we persevere nonetheless. So, Styx have released their 18th studio album. It is entitled Circling from Above, and I think it's fair to say it's a bit of a digression from what you typically might expect to hear from them over the years. Now, whether that digression is good or bad is really going to depend on the individual listener, but I suspect the thoughts I'm about to share just might result in me getting a bit of flack from their fans. But
as always, I don't care.
I'm here to give an opinion, so that's what I'm going to do. Take it or leave it. That's how it works. Meanwhile, the band, they've grown a little bit. Seems to take a village these days. Of course, Tommy Shaw returns, guitars, mandolin, and vocals. James Young, also on guitars and vocals. We've got Chuck Panozzo, the lone remaining founding member of the band, if I'm not mistaken. He is on bass, at least part-time. He's not always there, I think. Ton Sucherman on percussion, all the percussions. Lawrence Gowan on all the keyboards, and they are diverse in sound and tone and vocals. Message being there, of course, too. If you're going to be in this band, you better be prepared to sing a little bit. Will Ivankovich, I keep trying to say it back and forth. No matter what way I say it, it sounds wrong in my head. He's on guitars, mandolin, and really a bunch of other stuff. He's a bucket full of things, and all on top of it, he produced the album. And Terry Gowan, yes, he's related, on bass when Chuck Panozzo is not on bass, I presume. I didn't hear any double bass. Didn't try to. But anyway, and just to round things up to a nice even 10, they brought in 3 guests. We got Stevie Black on strings, Jeff Coffin on clarinet. With a name like that, he should be a funeral director, and Aubrey Haney on fiddle. And that rounds out the personnel involved with the album. Now, the press release and the press I saw coming out indicated this was an album that features contributions from all 7 members of the band, but the songwriting credits I saw kind of told another story, as they're all listing Shaw and or Ivankovich on every song, and Lawrence Gowan along with them on about half the tracks. So, all right, you know what, I'll take your word for it that everybody contributed. Probably should put that in print somewhere. Just one man's opinion while I'm giving opinions. Now, the album breezes in at 13 tracks, 41 minutes, which does make this quite the swift affair for a prog album, both overall and the fact that there is not a single track over 4 minutes, and 2 of them are under 2 minutes. One of them is under 1 minute. So, I got to wonder if they themselves would lay claim to the term prog, but hey, they've been in that section of the world for a while, so I guess they're going to have to live with it, and it's still getting applied as a label. But those are very unproggy numbers, I gotta say. But hey, they can do what they want. It's progressive, right? Now, before we start the breakdown, just want to take a moment to remind you, if you could, to like and subscribe if you don't mind. That would be wonderful. And a quick reminder of my methodology. I rate the album on 4 categories. The rating's 1 to 5. I've added in fractions now. Ooh. And the categories are intellectual, innovation, technical, and emotional. Average those out, get a number, and if it doesn't quite match my personal experience, I'm going to put on an enjoyment modifier there. At least that's what I've called the term. So there you go. This time around, I'm doing something a little different. I'm going to blow through the categories rather quickly because I have some conflicted thoughts about this album that I need to process. So I need to make space time-wise for that. So starting off, as always, with Intellectual. Now, this is touted as a concept album, and the press says it navigates the complexities of the human experience through the intersecting lenses of technology and nature. That's heady-sounding stuff, and it certainly sounds like it goes really deep. And on some parts it does. There's some really good stuff in here, and I feel the album really starts strong, but I feel like it almost starts to lose the thread a bit halfway through, and suddenly I don't feel like we're talking about navigating the complexities of the human experience through the intersecting lenses of technology and nature. We're just writing songs. I don't know. I don't want to be pissy, but I kind of feel like if there's a concept, the concept doesn't stretch across the entire album. That's all. For me, some of the lyrics, especially towards the end, really tend towards, kind of fairly standard love song territory with a couple twists thrown in there here and there. So, Intellectual, I'm going to score them a 3.5. Moving on to Innovative next. This one is admittedly going to get addressed in a great deal more detail later, so I'm going to be brief here. Now, whether intentional or not, this album is a bit of a throwback in both good and not so good ways for me. I hate to be harsh. I don't like being harsh, but this really is the first time I've come across an album that I think earns a sub-3 score here, because I feel a bit like they kind of backtracked, and I don't know that I feel like there was a purpose to it. Maybe there is, and I haven't seen or heard it stated, but I'm scoring this one a 2.5. Next, we move on to Technical. Now, I think we all know there are no slouches in this band. Let's make that front and center. This album isn't written as a prog-minded or a prog rock mind-blowing excursion. It's not meant to be that way. The arrangements are tuneful, they're pleasant, just the right touches, and a bit of a yacht rock sheen throughout, mostly. I have no doubt these guys can blow our minds when they want to, and I'm certain they are capable of much more intricate and impressive stuff on this case. I just don't think that's what they chose to do on this particular occasion. I don't think it suited what they were trying to do. I will score this one a 3.5, mostly on potential than on the actual results. And finally, we wrap up with Emotional. In brief, there are some nice moments throughout this album, but for the most part, it really does not move the needle on my emotometer more than most albums I've heard this year. So, as I tend to do, I am scoring this one a 3 for Emotional. Now, first, let's tally the scores up. Intellectual, 3.5. Innovative, 2.5. Technical, 3.5. Emotional, 3. Raw score overall is a 3.13. I rounded up from a 3.125 because, damn it, I'm just not into doing like 3 or 4 numbers past the decimal point. Let's not get crazy here. All right, getting to those additional thoughts that border on maybe being the main thoughts. Starting off, this album surprises me because I don't feel like it like the more recent albums from Styx pointed in this direction. This seems like a very sudden turn that I can't say I really saw coming, and maybe a lot of people didn't see coming. I don't know that it was predicted or foreshadowed in the previous albums. It's very much, in my mind, in my ear anyway, has a retro 70s feel in the production. There's low gloss, straight ahead sounds with the instruments, minimal effects, if any, on either the instruments or vocals. I think at least one song's got some processed vocals on it, but it's not something that they did a lot. Not a lot of studio trickery going on here. It's pretty much straightforward. It's straight ahead. That's perfectly fine. That is not necessarily what I consider bad, just as much as it is different. Or is it? I don't know. I'm really a bit of a divided mind about all this. I generally don't care for intentional retro sounds unless there's like a point to it. But that also sometimes might depend on the songs. Case in point, I just reviewed Great Wide Nothing, and I talked about how I felt I heard an early 80s kind of new wavy vibe, lo-fi vibe. Somehow I don't suspect that that was a conscious decision on Great Wide Nothing's part. And perfectly honest, the songs were strong enough themselves without worrying about whether they sounded of a particular time. I think that just is the way it turned out, but it was cool. I was fine with it. Another case in point, the overtly intended 70s rock vibe, hard rock vibe, meets dream theater aesthetic of a band like Big Elf. Like their pastiche is done with a definite winking eye to the audience. And again, strong songs makes a difference. And then perhaps there's the, I'll say, hypothetical idea of an album intended to be a time capsule from the period it reflects. But then again, it doesn't really have to be a hypothetical, because M. Opus comes to mind. They kind of did exactly that, where they were saying they were like a band transported from time that recorded albums back in the 70s. So, like, it depends on what's going on. What I can't say that I'm especially fond of is a band intentionally mining their own history for nostalgia purposes. It feels to me like it's a manipulative kind of nostalgia, and if one is going to attempt it, one better do it damn well. Now, I'm not saying that about this album. Let's be clear about that. That's not what I'm saying has happened here, at least not to my eye, or my ear, I should say, really. There are definitely some moments throughout that bring to mind classic Styx, but that's also not the majority of the runtime where that occurs either. There are definitely some really strong songs on here that overcome a lot of those shortcomings, and where the low gloss production and maybe slightly 70s throwbacky sound, as I move around here because I'm rocking the damn table. I'm going to edit that out. Or no, I'm not. Watch it. What? I'm sorry. But really what I'm trying to figure out is why they seem to be mining nostalgia of other artists that were their contemporaries at the time. Their contemporaries. Let me repeat that. I don't understand why that seems to be going on here. I mean, sure, other bands, plenty of other bands might reflect their influences, especially their influences that helped inspire them to become a band, or maybe some things they've heard along the way where they start taking some inspiration from the younger bands and adding some stuff in. Like I said, that's usually taking influences from those who came before them, or maybe newer bands that they're hearing now and modernizing their sound, not bands that played at the same time you were at your height. That's weird to me. I don't understand. I mean, throughout this album, at various times, I maybe not hearing exactly stuff directly lifted, but things that absolutely bring to mind Steely Dan, Poco, Alan Parsons Project, Queen, Pink Floyd, Supertramp, ELO, the Beatles. Okay, it might be kind of repetitive or redundant to say ELO and the Beatles, since ELO was kind of trying to be the Beatles, but you get the point. And there's another example we'll get to in a bit that is truly egregious. So I don't know. So what is happening with this? Why would they be doing this? Like, all of it's done very well. And Styx is a band that has definitely their own history going back that far. So I'm just left questioning why would I be hearing bits and pieces of other bands from 40, 50 years ago that were playing at the same time you guys were? It just strikes me as odd, and I don't get it. At the same time, there's a lot of these songs that are really good and I really enjoy. So I have these dueling, it's like little devil and angel Dave on my shoulders arguing back and forth about the ups and downs of this. I don't get it, but it's kind of weird. Like, honestly, mining your own nostalgia is one thing, but when you start mining someone else's nostalgia, that makes you Greta Van Fleet.
Oh, no, you didn't.
Now, getting into the track notes here. Usually I only really mention the standouts, things I like best. But just as I process this rant, this one I'm going to be doing two kinds of standouts. I need to do two of them. First, the ones I wish were standing out somewhere far away. And I don't want to be mean, but some things that I don't know. Blue-Eyed Raven. This song seems like it's from another place and another time. It's like it's some sort of spaghetti western gypsy up-tempo acoustic ballad, even going so far as to include accordion, I think. It's accordion. Sounded like it. I mean, let's be honest, it's really well played, and it's definitely a stylistic shift in the middle of the album, and it breaks things up a bit, which I don't necessarily mind. Just maybe a little too much. It's maybe a little too far out there. It's Tommy Shaw's baby, so it surprises me. It does feel really out of place, and that is despite a very impressive performance by Shaw on guitar and vocals, I believe. It's a decent little song, but it feels very much like it's in the wrong album, and I'm not sure what's going on there. And it's one of two songs that feels like it's part of a Broadway musical somehow or other, and it's introducing a character. The other one is King of Love. Now, again, I admire them taking some compositional and some stylistic chances on this album. It really does speak to them to having a certain level of confidence and gutsiness to not just play it safe. They could easily have played it safe and done exactly what everybody expected them to do. And to their credit, on this album, they didn't do that. And at the same time, this song feels like the introductory song of the main antagonist in a Broadway musical who pretends to be a good guy at first and is later revealed to be a villain. Interesting track, but to be perfectly honest, when given the opportunity, I like to have some wine and crackers with my cheese. All right, guys, keep that in mind next time, eh? And then finally, you heard me use the word egregious earlier. And we talked about seemingly lifting from other artists of the time. We Lost the Wheel. What the hell? You lost more than the wheel here, folks. I don't know what happened with this song. Is it an intentional, we'll be generous and call it homage to The Who? I mean, if it is, it's really perverting the term homage. It blurs the line between homage and direct ripoff. Was this an accident? That can't be. You can't be telling me. Don't tell me this, please. You don't tell me no one really noticed this in the studio? No one picked up on this and went, gee, this really sounds like The Who. I don't know. Did Will Ivankovich write, produce, play all the stuff on this song on his own in the studio and just kind of throw it in the album without the rest of the band knowing? And no one had a chance to say, dude. Or did the song get created and he was so excited and so happy with it that no one had the heart to tell him that the Emperor is wearing Pete Townshend's clothes? I don't know what's going on with that. I literally have never, I think, in my life really encountered something like this, something akin to this. I almost have to think the cease and desist from Daltrey and Townsend is already in the mail. I don't understand. I just don't understand how it exists. And I'm sorry if that's rough, but come on, dude. Even the vocals, are sounding like Daltrey. I don't know. If it's intentional, I guess somebody please provide an explanation. That's all I want to know. Maybe there's a purpose to it that I'm missing. Anyway, now let's talk about the songs I did like, and the ones that stood out for me in a good way, like I normally do. Leading off, their lead-off single, Build and Destroy, is, for me, a really sharp tune with an immediately catchy melody and just enough classic Styx vibe to not sound like it's a retread. When this was first released, it had me really anticipating this album and thinking, man, I want to check out the rest of this. This is a cool tune. I really enjoy this. I wish the rest of the album just lived up to that promise. Now, coming in a close second is Michigan. And I really like the way it uses composition to build tension in a very melodic way. But it's also got this bit of a dark, edgier tone to it that's missing from the rest of the album, which is pretty hopeful overall. It's a nice, pretty positive sounding album. And this one's just got a bit of that darkness that I like. And as you know, I like darkness. So I like how it offsets the remainder of the album. And then finally, the third one is It's Clear. And that's the title of the song. It's not saying to you it's clear what song I like. The song is called It's Clear. It's very weird to put in a sentence. I really like how this one uses the intro and the verses to create anticipation before it just launches into this powerful chorus that is bursting with optimistic energy. And it's a great example of a song using that kind of methodology as a setup and then a takeoff, that it just builds up and then boom, when it hits, it just feels like you knew what was coming all along. Great song there. So some really great tunes here. Like I said, there's stuff on this album I really like, and there's some stuff that is absolutely rubbing my rhubarb. If I can lift from Batman, and I just did. You can't stop me. So oddly enough, I'm going to do something unusual here with the enjoyment modifier. I have two of them. First off, I'm applying a negative 0.5 for the cloying retro 70s pastiche of styles and sounds that are seemingly borrowed from other artists, especially one of them. Simply put, I find it a bit annoying. It takes me out of enjoying the album, and I like to think a band of Styx's stature is above that kind of thing. So I don't know what happened there. At the same time, I am adding a 0.5 for the fact that despite that bit, despite those annoyances, most of these songs are really quite enjoyable, even the ones that are lifting from other bands. They are good tunes. They are enjoyable tunes. Are they exactly Styx in the traditional sense? No, you're not hearing anything like Renegade in here. So if that's what you're looking for, forget it. Steelers fans can feel free to opt out. It's not going to be played at the stadium. Is there a lot of stuff here that trends more towards yacht rock than it does prog rock or even Styx stadium rock? Yes. So what? It's cool stuff when it's there. So it's the best way I can think to reconcile this dichotomy of thought that I have on this album while making my point. Felt I needed to just highlight things both ways rather than simply negating them and saying we're going to remain with the final score being 3.13. Okay, now it's your turn. I am firmly braced myself for some blowback from the Styx faithful out there. I'm absolutely expecting you guys to give me some shit. So that's fine. You guys go right ahead and let me have it. And the rest of you, let me know your thoughts too. If you're new to Styx, if you're an old person familiar with Styx, but maybe not a huge fan, tell me how you feel about this album. Tell me how you feel about the shift in style if you are familiar enough to know Styx and know the shift occurred. And of course, to those of you who don't want to comment, that's cool too. There's always the like and subscribe buttons. They're a good time. Have at them and join me on my proggy adventures if you wouldn't mind. All right, coming up next time, I actually don't know. I had a plan, and I decided kind of last minute to shift the plan. So I'll have to figure out, and I'm going to have to decide where I'm going to pivot to and what album I'm doing next. And you'll find out after I do. It's the only way it can work, possibly, right? Finally, I leave you with a reminder to never fear to deviate from the norm. And as always, keep it proggy.